It's coming, man. Life's so damn high you can't even afford to die. Have you seen the cost of caskets and funerals? Man, when I die, just throw my ass in the ocean. Fuck it.
From the Republican talking points is that, well, the Affordable Care Act is too expensive and we need to fix it. But the thing is, they don't actually say what their plan is, which is really frustrating. Have you heard anything in terms of a concept of a plan?
Look, we have been frustrated by that narrative for years now, basically since the Affordable Care Act was put into effect, and Republicans have sought to either repeal or undermine the health system that we have today. Look, I would love to be a party to a conversation on how we reform or transform health care so it is more affordable and more accessible to more people, to everyone in our country. But that is not what they're proposing, right? Right now, they're taking the only thing that is making health care affordable for millions of people, and they're taking it away without any other alternative. That is devastation. I mean, if you think of a family who's living their lives, right, they're opening up their energy bill. It's exorbitant. They're going to the grocery store at the checkout. They're stressed. All these costs that have risen because of tariffs or just inflation, and now they're being faced with the very real dilemma of how am I going to afford, my doctor's visits, or how am I going to afford my health care insurance?
Major legal news: the Supreme Court is likely parting ways with Trump on one of the biggest issues of the administration and might force them to refund $750 billion. Everyone says this court does whatever Trump wants, but it looks like they're putting their foot down on tariffs, not to protect other countries, but to protect us, you, me, Americans. These tariffs are costing Americans money. Major legal news: the Supreme Court is likely parting ways with Trump on one of the biggest issues of the administration and might force them to refund $750 billion. Everyone says this court does whatever Trump wants, but it looks like they're putting their foot down on tariffs, not to protect other countries, but to protect us, you, me, Americans. These tariffs are costing Americans money, estimated $1,000 per household in 2025 and $1,300 annually going forward. So this lawsuit brought to the Supreme Court today argued that these tariffs are taxes, and the power to tax is a power of Congress, not of the president, because constitutionally there are layers of protection when the government requires us to give up our money. Those layers are the House, the Senate, and then the president signing it in. Trump's lawyers argued that these tariffs are regulatory tariffs, not taxes. The justices seemed very skeptical, and they voiced concern over the president literally ratcheting power away from Congress. Justice Gorsuch warned of a one-way ratchet toward the gradual but continual accretion of power in the executive branch and away from the people's elected representatives. Final decision can come at any time, and it will be huge.
People affording life right now. How are people tackling this cost of living?
We're not. Truth of the matter, most of us are living paycheck to paycheck with credit card debt. I know people who are legitimately putting gas and groceries on credit cards just so that they can get back to work. I believe that this is what most people are now calling the silent depression. $100 has become the new $20, and it's ridiculous. But the best thing about it is that people have shifted their core values. Look at this app alone and all the videos of all the retailers on Black Friday that nobody was there. We just don't care anymore.
People are realizing that if it doesn't bring value into my life, then I don't need it. While I don't get political on this app, you're having people on both sides of the aisles going, yeah, this kind of sucks. Right wing, left wing, it doesn't matter. It's the same bird. And now so many Americans are going, I truly just, I don't care. I think it's woken a lot of people up to the idea of why are we funding things that we don't care about when all of us right here are struggling. It's changed people's attitude in the workforce to where a job is just a job. It used to be very
stop moving to Arizona. Please stop moving. Another thing is they keep building apartments, so many apartment complexes, and Arizona is already hot. And in Phoenix, it's extra hot because there's so much concrete. The sun is hitting the concrete all day. That's why our monsoons aren't happening as much as they used to. There's too much infrastructure in Arizona, and they just keep building and building and building. And prices keep going up, and it keeps getting hotter. You don't want to live here. If you're thinking about moving here, don't do it. People that live here already are struggling enough. I hate it here.
The cost of inflation in America, it's very high, and Americans are wondering how they're going to pay their bills. Why? Right now, as we know, there was tariff war between America and of course across the world, especially between China and America, who are their biggest partners. So what happened? So this tariff war, it escalated increase of grocery prices, increase of other products, because at the end of the day, when you increase tariff, the people are going to pay the customers. Usually the cost is usually passed down across, and the person who's gonna pay at the end of the day is the customer when you go to buy that product. And that's basically what's happening in America. Remember, China is America's biggest partner. China manufacture most of the goods from America, and America buy it from China, and the consumer of America are the ones who eat or consume those produce. So when they put this tariff war, of course prices are going to increase. Now people are complaining in America like, what? I can barely afford, paying my bills. I can barely afford buying food because it's very, very expensive. So people are becoming so frustrated, and they're wondering how they're going to survive. So who is to be blamed? Who is to be blamed? And right now in America, there is that government shutdown, which has been going on for the last over 1 month right now. And people are wondering how are they going to survive, because federal workers are not being paid. Other people are depending on the federal government jobs. They're not able to survive. You're being told over 40 million Americans, should I say over 50% of Americans, they barely have $1,000 savings in their account. That is statistics. It's a fact. So these people are living paycheck to paycheck. So right now they haven't been paid, and they're wondering how are they going to take care of their family, how are they going to pay their mortgages, how are they going to pay their health insurance, their car insurance, and many other bills, because they don't have the money. And that's where the frustration is coming in. So the current administration, as we all know it, it came in and started this tariff war, and as a result, people are suffering. The people who are suffering are the lower middle class. The middle class people, of course the rich are okay because they're not being given any, they've been given the tax breaks. Remember, these millionaires and billionaires, they have the money. So if they're told to cough a little bit of $10,000 here and there, they'll be able to do it because they can afford it. But the person who's living paycheck to paycheck, who has no saving whatsoever in their account, they depend on their paycheck, they depend on their 9 to 5 job, those are the people going to suffer. If you tell them just to add an extra $100 or $200 in their budget, they'll tell you we cannot afford it, because now we will be forced to decide between our budget, which is more important. Is it food, or we forgo electricity bill, or we forgo paying the mortgage bill? Which is more important? That's what they'll be forced to choose, because they cannot afford to add an extra $100 or $200 in their budget. And that's basically what majority of Americans are going through right now. It's painful, but it is the reality. And this is what they say, far for season. When you make a stupid decision, this is when reality hit you hard. And now people are complaining, and they're wondering, did they make a mistake when they voted for the current administration? Did they make a wrong mistake when they voted the way they did? That's what most people are asking. So let me know what your thoughts are, and please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to drop your comments.